Here we are inside the hut. For some reason the video cut out when I came in last time. Maybe I pressed my thumb in the wrong place. So we'll walk around here. And there's the chimney. Well, there's the window, I should say. It's interesting, the phone can't photo on the corrugated iron behind it, but I can see the chimney quite clearly behind the window. The window's actually got hinges, which is interesting, so it obviously could swing open. There's an old ski on the wall here. And here's the fireplace, which I guess was built by Madison, as I was saying before. And here's the side wall covering up where the old wood stove would have been, and there's now an old bunk here, a very old bunk. Doesn't look terribly comfortable. I think I'll sleep in my tent tonight. Other features of interest, if you look up at the ceiling here, you can see a lot of these, the cross struts are all round. They're undressed local snow gum, and that was one of the features that did impress the Historic Buildings Council back in 1988. I'll move back this way. There's a window at the other end which is making life difficult for the camera. I'll go back like that. The other interesting feature is there's no ridgepole. Len Spargo, who was the son of Cecil, Bill's brother, who helped him to build this hut, talked to me a lot about the ridgepole and explained how it's not necessary. Cecil built a house for himself in Pascoe Vale in Melbourne, and that was a big house and also had no ridgepole. These colours are interesting, the green and the yellow. I'm told that they're the colours that the Victorian Railways used to paint a lot of their fittings with. The significance of that is that the Victorian Railways managed took over the management of the chalet at Hotham Heights that Bill had operated for the Country Roads Board for many years. And so when Bill moved out here to the hut, he obviously used a lot of the Victorian Railways paint. These low rafters are interesting. Good table, good solid table. I'm told Bill and Cecil carried this table in one piece, which would have been a hell of a job. It's a long climb down to Swindler's Creek from the Hotham Resort and back up the other side to this hut. A lot of the possessions that were here in the 1980s are no longer here. Some of them have been taken over to the Hotham Resort where they're being stored. Others, who knows where they are. It's a shame. There used to be a lot of books and magazines here, but they're all gone. There was a framed painting of a ship up on the mantelpiece here back in 1987 when I was here, but that's gone. I have no idea who painted it or how it came to be there. The other feature of the hut was the garden and the fence. So I'll move back and look back at the hut here. This area here used to be Bill's vegetable garden. We look back at the hut here. there was a fence that sort of started at the hut there and sort of went around roughly here and joined the hut again here, and it protected his vegetables from the cattle which used to graze here in the 30s and 40s. I don't think he ever managed to grow a lot of vegetables, but photos do show he had some plants here. Of course, he lived off the land a lot. He ate a lot of the local sorrel. He used to say he used to tickle the fish in the streams, catch them. He ate a lot of cheese, a lot of potatoes. Very little meat because he couldn't afford it back in those days. He was living on the breadline, really. Below it, if that's possible. But I think Madison removed the fence also. Madison also put a couple of extra rooms out the front here. Photos from the 1970s show there were 2 extra rooms in front of the front door here, but they've long gone. But the other interesting feature, if we go around the back again, is a whole lot of pipes with fittings that make me think they could be connected together, one to the other. Here they are. There's one with these lugs at the end of it. Some more here. I wonder if Madison used these for funneling water down. I just don't know. Perhaps I'm completely wrong. The idea was that water was channeled into progressively narrower pipes until it came out in a strong jet at the end, and that could be used to tear away dirt and rocks that was covering up material that contained gold. A jet of water to tear away dirt. Very destructive, of course, environmentally destructive, and somewhat controversial even in its day, but it certainly did lead to some significant gold discoveries. That area, I'll probably put my tent up over there, but that area through there is all wet and boggy, and it has been suggested to me that one of the reasons why Bill chose this area was that it was so wet and he knew water was critical, and he may have even had his eye on the possibility of fires. And then if we look over here, we can see the Hotham Resort. Of course, none of this was here in Bill's day. Bill was originally employed by the Country Roads Board to resuscitate the old track that led across the mountains between Harrietville and Omeo, between the mining fields of Omeo and the Ovens Valley, which had fallen into disrepair during the First World War and needed resurrection with the coming of the tourism boom of the 1920s and the advent of motor cars and so forth. And then in 1925, a stone cottage was built in the saddle between Mount Hotham and Mount Higginbotham, which is right over there. A stone cottage built by Italian stonemasons to house Bill and his fellow road workers. And Bill persuaded the Country Roads Board to allow him to take in paying guests during the winter months, and thus was born the Victorian skiing industry. But Bill didn't do a particularly good job, really, as a chalet manager. His heart was in gold prospecting, and he wasn't particularly sociable. He was a bit of a loner. And in 1933, management of the chalet was transferred from from the Country Roads Board to the Victorian Railways, and Bill's lease was terminated. Some new managers were brought in, Ross and Jean Goldsworthy from Wandillagong, who had no previous gold experience, and they couldn't get any assistance across from Mount Buffalo, where the Victorian Railways also owned the chalet. The road was closed, and the Goldsworthys were desperate, and they turned to Bill and his partner, Evelyn Piper, an Englishwoman who were living over here at the time, and asked if they would assist them at the chalet, and they agreed to do so and had a wonderful year together. And then at the end of that season, the Goldsworthys went back to their orchard at Wandillagong, and the Gribbles took over the management of the chalet for several years. Bill doesn't seem to have worked for the Gribbles much, and he and Evelyn retreated to this hut and continued to live here for many years.